Welcome to the FlipTech East Coast Podcast, a podcast designed to introduce you to this year's teacher presenters. This year's conference is being hosted by Collingswood High School and is being held on June 29th and 30th. It is also being presented by the Flip Learning Network. In this episode of the podcast, we bring to you Kate Baker, who will be speaking on Get Flippin' in Here, class structures to support flipped learning. Kate joins us from New Jersey. If you are interested in hearing Kate or any of our other teacher presenters speak at this year's conference, please visit fliptech.fliplearning.org to register. Again, that's fliptech.fliplearning.org. And we pick it up now with Kate. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the FlipTech East Coast Podcast. And I'm Dave Walsh, and today we have a very special interview with Kate Baker coming to us from all the way from the Jersey Shore, an hour or so away from where I am. And she is going to be presenting on June 29th at FlipTech East Coast. And the title of her presentation is going to be Get Flippin' in Here, Class Structures to Support Flip Learning. Kate, how are you today?
I'm great, Dave. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you. Your energy is just, it's like, it's contagious, the way that, your smile and your energy have been. It's just, I always enjoy talking to you.
It's always, I'm glad you like talking to me.
You always love to be talked to.
Oh, you guys want to talk to me? That's great. Yay.
Yay. They like me.
Yes. I feel that way quite often. Right. Oh my God, they like me. I'm not crazy. They're crazy with me.
Well, other than being crazy and having high energy and living at the Jersey Shore, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell the audience here who is Kate Baker?
So I'm a 9th grade English teacher at Southern Regional High School. This is my 19th year teaching. Yes, 19 years with freshmen. Has been a lot of fun, but my career has certainly taken a couple of evolutions from, teaching, getting started as a teacher way back when, and then shifting into, parent mode and teacher mode with family life and balancing that. And then now with technology and with paperless, it's just been such a wonderful revitalization the past 6 years that I've been officially flipping. I didn't even know what flipping was. And then when I found the Flip Learning Network and the Flip Class chat, I was like, oh, this is what you call it. Oh, there's a name for what I'm doing. Yeah. Not just we kids, let's do stations and student-centered learning, and I'm not at the front of the room with you anymore. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and it's a great community to be a part of.
So you said that you have been flipping for about 6 years now. Is that?
Yes.
Are we taking a walk? Is this?
Well, the dog wants to go out, and before the dog starts barking, I'm going to let the dog out the door.
That's awesome.
There he goes.
This is in my school, we would call this a learning walk.
Yes. Let me show you. So here's the backyard.
Yeah, that's good.
We actually have sun. So yeah, thank you. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. So you've been flipping for about 6 years, you said. Would you describe what you do primarily flip learning, or do you fall on into the educational technology part? You can't separate the two, but this is.
Oh, it's just a big smorgasbord of learning. It really is. Well, because with the English language arts classroom, it's not here is a video on how to solve an equation like you can with math. So I kind of am doing a lot of everything. There's videos with direct instruction, but then there's a lot of explore, flip, apply, where we're doing a lot of inquiry-based learning. There's peer modeling, there's gamification. It's just a big cornucopia of all the things. And
that's the thing, when I think that when people start flipping, they get into the educational technology aspect, and, but in the end, it's just about trying to find the right way to teach the kids the things that you want to teach.
And that's the most important part to me is no longer am I anchored to the front of the room in a teacher-centered classroom. I'm not doing live lecture. I'm not reading to them necessarily all the time. And that just flipping allows me to just shift my role, and that now I can be alongside of them as they're learning, that I can give them class structures to, okay, here's the things that you're going to do today. And now I can facilitate because I've done a lot of planning to prepare the materials in advance.
Right. And so I probably have the answer to this question, but hey, the dog comes back in.
He didn't stay out for very long. I'll show you Charlie real quick. So Charlie is my 7-year-old Shih Tzu. There he is.
Oh, hey, he's got a toy.
And he's a certified therapy dog.
Oh.
And he actually comes to school with me too. We just started training him with that. So
that's
a whole nother story to talk about me and dogs
right.
in my classroom, because he's my second therapy dog. Not that I need therapy, but then to make my students feel.
It sounds like your ESET 2 NJPA talk all over again.
Oh yeah, there was
that was phenomenal.
So,
and so I guess this is a perfect lead into my next question, but for our audience again, have you ever presented before? I'm sure, and I think I know what the answer is. And then the follow-up, which I'll ask, is, since you probably have presented once or twice in your life, what is it that keeps you doing it? Why do you keep wanting to present?
So I first got started with presenting at Teach Meet New Jersey this was like 2011, 2012, somewhere in there, and just started going to like ed camps and Teach Meet, the informal stuff first, and was just enthralled with the learning community and the people to connect with. That, it doesn't always have to be this canned professional development, that it can be very organic with the unconference piece. Mm-hmm. And my first big presentation was Liz Calderwood and I were selected to present for Edmodo at EdmodoCon 2013. And so they flew us out to San Mateo, California. They recorded us, and we had a small group of live people in front of us, and then, thousands of people that were online attending virtually. And, that's like the bug really bit me then, that when you can package something and, our presentation was called Classroom Gymnastics, how to flip and blend your classroom, flip and blend learning. It's not just like, here, flipping, we're going to do somersaults and cartwheels and all of it. Right. But it's just when you create something like this, that you have such an impact on other educators. And that's why I keep coming back. And that's why I keep going to conferences. Like, I don't go on vacation. My vacations are going to conferences. Because I love it so much. It's just who I am. And being around other educators who, it's not just about me presenting. It's not a one-way street. This is, being an attendee is just as powerful because I'm able to absorb so much. I was just in Palm Springs for CUE, computer using educators out there. And, Palm Springs is, again, vacation. But under the guise of a work trip. But again, being surrounded by so many thousands of educators is really, really powerful and really invigorating.
Yeah. And so what kind of things do you hope to get from coming to FlipTech? We haven't even gotten into some of the awesome stuff of your presentation, but we're talking about it. So, because you're going to be presenting, that we know, just shameless plug from my end about Kate Baker is that I also believe that she's a presenter at this year's ISTE, right? In Chicago, right?
Yes, presenting at ISTE.
Right. So.
And I'm a glutton for punishment. Not punishment, but just I enjoy this so much. I'm also the chair, the conference chair for the Conference on English Leadership.
The CEL, right?
Yep, CEL, which is an affiliate of NCTE. So not only am I presenting and have presented in the past for them, now I get to run the show.
Right.
And have folks participate too.
People talk about connected educators. It's like
Yeah.
you're a connected presenter. You've taken that to the next level, Kate.
I just love it. And it's about being able to find your niche and about finding your community. Like, I'll be honest, like, why do I love this so much? It's because often in my own local district, I've felt misunderstood. People don't understand, or why do you like this technology stuff? It's too confusing. And I'm like, no, don't you understand? It saved me not having to lug home bags of paper, and trying to grade essays and grade tests by hand. And it just all helps to make my students' learning more visible to me, that I'm a better teacher through it.
Right.
And, folks weren't getting that in my local district, that oftentimes like, oh, I get these statements, I could never do what you do.
Right.
I'm like, no, yes, you can. It's easy. You just play.
Right.
You're not going to break it. Just play.
You end up being an island unto yourself almost.
So that's why I travel for conferences, because that's how I feel, is lonely and isolated. And you guys are my friends now.
So what about FlipTech? What do you hope to gain from not presenting, but attending? That's.
I'm so excited to see many of the educators that I connect with online through Twitter and through that Flip Class chat. Get to see Ken Bauer, get to see Lindsay Stevenson, get to see Matt. Get to see the folks in person. And while I'm sure I'm going to learn so many wonderful things as an attendee in their various sessions, it's just being together. That's synergy of education. And
it's really funny that you say that, because as I'm kind of finishing up my interview cycle here, everybody that I've talked to, I shouldn't say everybody, almost everybody that I've talked to, I think, has said that the reason why they want to go to the conference, whether they're presenting or attending, is because they appreciate hanging out with people, like-minded people, whatever they're getting out of it, that's kind of a personal thing, but, they want to be with those people.
And I hear you got some folks coming from Columbia.
Yeah, I have.
Who's coming from Columbia?
Let's see here. We have Carolina Buitrago.
I am so excited to meet her in person, because the two
do you
of
know
us
her through the Twitterverse?
I know her through the Twitterverse, and we have collaborated on a couple of small projects. They're just not just connected. Mm-hmm. So I'm super duper excited to see her finally in person, and not just through a hangout or through a chat.
Right. And let's see, Liana Diaz is also coming, who's one of her co-conspirators. Actually, Carolina Buitrago is very interesting, because she's the only one who has multiple presentations in the. Oh. And not only does she have she has 3. We removed all the names. The selection committee removed all the names from the session, from the proposals, so that way we weren't influenced by, I know this, all this stuff. And so we picked everybody's proposals on their merits, and she had 3 that was accepted. So she's going to be running around busy that first day.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's something you can tell her she's hogging all the time. The crazy part is I have to do 3 interviews with her.
That's funny.
Yeah. So I guess we have to talk about it. You're going to be presenting about Get Flippin' in here. I have to make sure that I put the emphasis on the right word there, because it's not Get Flippin' in here. It's Get Flippin'.
Get Flippin' in here.
Right. Class structures to support flip learning. And so explain to the audience what your presentation is all about.
So this session is focused on what do you do with that face-to-face time with your students, and how do you manage that learning? So, so often we hear with flip learning, it's the video. How do I make my videos? And what do I do with videos? And how do I assess with the videos? And it's like, that's an important piece of it. But the video is not the only thing, or the tech tool is not the only thing when it comes to flipping. It really is about what is your culture within your classroom, and what are the protocols or the routines that you're doing to have students engage in the learning, but then also assessing the learning. So I have some different frameworks because I love structure and thinking about structure of things that I have a couple of different things to play with. One is that if you wanted to gamify your classroom space, I have a real simplistic, easy way to start by using a bit of blended learning with, setting up your game online, your string of lessons that you want them to do, the string of tasks that you want them to do, but then being able to follow along with it using a paper game board. Mm-hmm. Real easy. So that's almost like a menu of learning. Like, here's your steps, but it looks pretty when you look at it as a game board. And then also thinking about not just like the instructional side of it, but then like as your students are working in groups, how like group work always becomes this problem of like one person did all the work and the other schmoes just kind of rode on that person's coattails. Well, I have a whole protocol, a whole template of how to do group work in a way that's much more effective. Using some group
I want that.
Oh my gosh. So I think it's linked in what I sent you, which
okay.
But I will certainly share it. It's a template that you do this. You give the students an agenda. The agenda is timed out with what you're doing when, and each person in a group has a very, very specific utilitarian role. And the one person in the group also keeps track of like who's doing what. And then you're able to have a record of, well, did the group complete their tasks? Did the individuals complete their tasks? And then it just makes things a bit more organized. It's actually based on like how I used to run swim workouts, how I would write swim workouts. Like, you have your 5-minute warm up, then you have your 15-minute drill set. Then you have your, we would do some like coaching where it's like, while 4 lanes are doing this, right, 2 lanes are getting one-on-one instruction. So I even have like a rotation model in there of like the teacher could rotate to the different groups, right, to work with them. It's actually, and some of it's based too off of like Catlin Tucker's station rotation model. Okay. But with Catlin Tucker, oh, there goes the dog. So with Catlin Tucker, she has it where the kids get up and move. And I only have 43 minutes in my class period. So with 43 minutes, I can't waste any seconds at all with them like getting up and moving. So it's all about how to have that rotation in their own seats, that they don't go anywhere. But then also thinking about that flexible learning environment. Well, how do you set up your classroom space to support this learning? And how can you make use of things that you might not necessarily expect, like, oh, you could take whiteboard markers and write on your windows if you don't have right, enough whiteboard space, or just silly things like that, just repurposing what you have in your room too. So it's all about how your room can support, and the timing of your class, how all of that can support flipped learning.
Okay, that's Kate Baker's presentation. She doesn't even have to be there. You can catch her online at Coach K Baker. No, just kidding. No, I mean, here's the thing. And so, Kate, this is honest to goodness, is that, I've taught for a number of years as well, and not 19. This is my 15th. But the thing is that when you see good teaching going on and you get those ideas, you want to be part of that's going on. And every interview, I want to be in the session with those folks. Like when you were talking about your station rotation model and how you have to do the time, and you have to worry about that and organizing it like your swim practices, and I guess it would be true for any coach, like it's you can organize it like basketball. I know basketball, you have to be down to the minute, right, here we go. You just don't have time to get at it. And it's not that it's a non-educational environment, it's just that you have to be wary of the time. And so I want to be front row center, with my hand up and say, how do you do this? How do you do that? So maybe I'll poke my head in there and try to disturb the learning.
Well, maybe I'll send you something else in your email too, so you can.
Uh-oh. Should I be nervous?
Ew.
So your session seems pretty awesome. And so,
Thank you.
yeah, who of the people attending the conference do you think should be coming to your session? Is it the veteran flipper? Is it the rookie flipper? Is it anybody? Is it ninth grade ELA? Like, who's going to get the most out of this?
Well, any subject area.
Okay.
First off, it's not ELA specific. So any subject area. And I would like to think that everybody could get something out of this, that not just and I'm sure the veteran flippers have ways that they structure their own classrooms, but who knows? I would never assume to know everything. So maybe they might learn something new. So this certainly will also work for new to flipping. That, again, what do you do with your classroom time? How do you make it work? And this session will help add that structure to the classroom that will support that learning. Because again, if you're going to have kids go and watch videos at home, or you have the video as part of class time, you still have to know how to set up your room. You still have to have your classroom space, your class time structured. So this is for everybody. Come on in.
Yeah, and this goes back to something we talked about earlier, is that good teaching just looks like good teaching, whether you're ninth grade ELA, traditional model, or, third grade flip learning math. Good teaching is good teaching, regardless of the mode that you use. Okay. So I have to ask your permission. The digital citizen in me has to make sure that this is okay. So I normally ask people a surprise question. Are you okay with a surprise question?
Okay.
Okay. So, you sounded a little reticent there.
Well, don't ask me like a math question.
No, yeah, right.
Please.
Right. Please quote the Pythagorean theorem. No.
Oh my God.
No. So, yeah, you've been teaching for a while now, 19 years, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm sure that your class looks a lot different than it now than it did back, 19 years ago. Is that a safe assumption?
I'm trying to think back to 19 years ago what it looked like.
Okay, how about 15 years ago?
Even that's a little blurry too.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Right,
so
okay,
those first few years, sometimes you're just kind of struggling to you're treading water and things like that. So things may look a little different. You've since employed kind of the flip model of learning and things like that. So, if you could go back in time to rookie teacher Kate Baker, what advice would you give yourself?
That is a good question. I don't know. Work smarter, not harder. I'm trying to think. Because I love it. I think really it would be just about confirmation and affirmation of like, you're in the right place, you're doing the right job. This is what you're meant to do. So have faith in that. And don't worry about the naysayers, because you'll find your niche, you'll find your people, and just keep plugging along. Like, follow your heart. And I mean, I've always kind of done that, but then just and always just making sure that you have your network of people to work with. That's always the big key. Right. That collaboration piece.
Have your tribe.
Yes.
Right. It's funny that just previous to your interview, I interviewed Aaron Sams, and he shocked me because I thought that I had, not that this is a deep, profound question that I made up on my own, but he actually said, "Oh, I have an answer to this question." He's like, "Well, now that I'm teaching," because he's teaching pre-service teachers and all this stuff, he said, "Well, I have an answer to that question because I have my students do the same thing in my class." So he he didn't hesitate, and so it's it's interesting to see everybody's responses. But I figure Aaron Sams, Kate Baker, whatever your name is, if it's good enough to give yourself that advice, it's probably good advice for all the people watching and listening to take heart to themselves. Is that, hey, you're in the right job. You're doing this, don't, if you get knocked down 9 times, stand up 10, that sort of thing.
I got to say, I've been really lucky with my career. Like I, as much as I may have felt misunderstood at times, or, as I try to do innovative things or try something different, because that's always, before we had the whole startup, world with ed tech, like I've always done that. I've always tried to figure out a way to do things better or to do something differently. Like I've always been like a tinkerer. Like, let me tinker with this and see what we can do. Right. So,
you were working in the
important.
You were working in the maker space before they had maker spaces.
Yeah, kind of,
right.
sort of.
Right.
Not really like building things, but
right.
It's just that mindset of like, you don't have to follow a canned curriculum. Like you can put your own spin on things. You can be your own teacher. You can follow, again, your heart and be willing to explore. Because it's not about taking risks, it's about recognizing the opportunities, as they present themselves, and not to be scared of those opportunities.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah. Well, everybody, that was Kate Baker. Kate, thanks so much for joining us. We really
You're very welcome, Dave. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we really enjoyed having you here. Kate will be speaking at FlipTech East Coast on June 29th. Her session title is Get Flippin' in Here, Class Structures to Support Flip Learning. Kate, thanks so much. That's it for this episode of the FlipTech East Coast podcast. We hope that you join us at the conference. Again, for more information or to register, please visit fliptech.fliplearning.org. Again, that website is fliptech.fliplearning.org, and we can't wait to see you there.